a program by, for, and about women today with Sandra Elkin.
Good evening and welcome to Woman. Tonight we're going to be talking about women and humor. With me is Anne Beats. Anne was the first woman editor of National Lampoon. She won an Emmy last year as a writer for NBC's Saturday Night. Also joining me is Deanne Stillman. Deanne is a veteran of the underground press. She has written for numerous magazines, including Viva, The Village Voice, More, and The Realist. She founded Bitch, the first feminist humor magazine. Deanne is co-founder of Pie Kill Unlimited, the original Pie for Hire organization. Deanne and Anne are co-editors of the first book of humor by women titled Titters. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Does everyone have a sense of humor, do you think?
Well, maybe Henry Kissinger doesn't, I don't know. And certain breeds of dogs, but other than that, I think everyone does, or would like to say that they do.
There are people, though, that say, or it's a thing that's said about women, that women don't have a sense of humor.
Women often say that about themselves. It's not a characteristic that women like to boast about. Some women do, Anne and I do. We love to boast about it.
Well, I think that that it's not part of the regulation equipment for women necessarily. I mean, a sense of humor. Everybody likes to think that they have a sense of humor, and I think if you ask them, they'd probably say that they do, and probably most women would say that they do, but some women will retreat into it as a defense, saying, no, I don't have a sense of humor, because they feel that if they did, then something would be demanded of them, and they don't feel equal to giving whatever that is, maybe entertaining. They don't feel quite equal to that.
Is there a kind of humor that women seem to be allowed? Women aren't raucous, are they?
Well, that
Well, some of them laugh loud.
Well,
that's what you mean.
No, in their humor.
I mean, groups of women alone frequently are raucous, but I think that if you told someone how raucous you are, they would not like that, and they would think that it was a defect, and that they were being insulted.
Titters is a little raunchy. And
raucous.
And raucous. And I think people are going to be surprised by that.
I hope they'll be surprised by it. A friend of ours describes our sense of humor as the drop-dead school of humor. And it's very involved with trying to find the fast comeback, you know. And
It's kind of a literary pie in the face.
that's a good description of what the book is, a literary pie in the face. And so I guess that's almost violent. And that hasn't, violence is not something that used to be associated with women. I mean, I think obviously it's changing. I mean, you have Squeaky Fromme and Susan Good and all of that, and you know, the new increase in women in crime. But violence and anything aggressive have not been thought of as feminine, and humor in its aggressive aspect hasn't been thought of as feminine.
There's a lot of talk now about a women's culture. We're hearing that from the women poets, from the women artists, and from other women writers who are not necessarily humorous. What's your position on that? I mean, some people say it's nonsense, and there are people who feel very strongly and are being very vehement about it.
There is a women's culture, as you've noted in Titters, and people I hope will see. It comes through in a number of ways. In Titters, it's come through, for instance, in the subjects we've covered, there are a number of cuticle jokes. For example, cuticles are not a subject, probably not even a word that would be used in articles by men. And,
there's kind of a secret world that women know about that's made up of a lot of very mundane things, like recipes and washing instructions and that kind of thing, advice to the lovelorn, that men don't share in very much and don't know much about, and I think that's women's culture. Women don't live in a ghetto, they live in houses. So they don't have ghetto humor, which may be one reason. I mean, they're not all collected together, you know, everybody's off in their own household.
Except I think it's coming to that.
It is coming to that, and that's because women are getting together and putting their experience together, and the same way that women got together a few years ago and put their sexual experience together and then drew conclusions from that, and that was like a big burgeoning thing of the women's movement. Now I think they're coming together and putting other kinds of experience together, and one of the things that's resulted in our case and in the case of women we've worked with is laughter, because you just see you start talking about it and you see the basic absurdity of a lot of positions. You know, I mean, I collected an item, a letter someone wrote to Ann Landers or one of those, and it was a letter saying, my daughter-in-law doesn't put away her wet dish rag. She leaves it out on the counter, and I've talked to her about it a lot of times and said that it's not nice to see it on the counter and it should be put under the sink, which is, you know, the right place to keep it. And, you know, what do you think, Anne? And I flipped it out because I thought, my God, you know, how could people care about this? It's so funny. And when you start thinking about this kind of obsession with minutiae like wet dish rags, you have to laugh or go crazy. And I think women are coming to that position.
I get the impression from reading The Galleys of Titters that nothing is sacred.
Not even trees.
Well, don't say anything about my mother. But
Titters may be an example of novel use in forestry, as a matter of fact.
I don't know, as a rule of thumb, if something makes people laugh, then it's funny. I mean, because people are laughing at it, so it must be funny. So how can you put the lid on it and say, no, but I mean, but that's, you've made a joke about hemorrhoids. We can't, no, the hemorrhoids aren't funny. They could be really painful. We can't laugh about that. I mean, if it is, then who are we to shut it out and not acknowledge it? It's there. It's part of the world. And then why shouldn't you be able to laugh?
Is there anything that you didn't put in the book that was submitted to you because you felt that it was in bad taste, or only things that you just felt weren't funny?
Only things that we felt weren't funny. We did receive one comic strip that portrayed a woman being raped, and she was helping the rapist. There may be some rapists in jail who think that's funny and who wish they would have found that woman, but it wasn't really funny to us, and it wasn't really it wasn't satirizing. It wasn't certainly constructive criticism, which satire is at its best. It wasn't satirizing anything at all. It was just sort of this one really bizarre fantasy that maybe belonged in the Penthouse Letters section, but it really wasn't for Titters.
You said it wasn't accurate, Anne.
Well, because I don't think that's, I mean, it's only subjective, but judging by my perception of the universe, that isn't what happens when people are raped. And so I didn't think that it belonged. You know, it didn't. I think humor has to do a lot with truth. It might be dancing around truth, but humor can reveal the truth. Satire can be a weapon that lifts the skirts of hypocrisy and reveals truth, you know, and it didn't. And I'm not saying that everything in Titters, I mean, there's things in Titters. I mean, we have the Titters Heavy 100, which is 100 fat women. And I'd be hard put to say what that satirizes. I don't know what the sociological point of that is, although I could probably make one up if you gave me about half an hour. But I think that it's nice if you can. It's nice if at the same time you can feel like you're doing something.
Has anyone been offended by the title?
Yes. Lily Tomlin, for example, is not in the book because she feels that Titters is a sexist title, which certainly doesn't reveal much of a sense of humor on her part.
I think
a few other women had the same reaction to the title, but it's in the dictionary, and I don't think that you can slap those labels on words that are in everyday use.
What about, I think people are probably going to say to you, the pieces in the book attack women sometimes. How will you handle that?
Well, of course they attack women. I mean, they attack everything. I mean, if that would be drawing lines too and saying, well, we'll just do jokes on men. I mean, or everything else in the world, but not women. I mean, if women aren't strong enough to be able to, I mean, that's the whole test of being able to make jokes about yourself. Surely women should be able to make jokes about other women. I mean, that's like we should start from that, you know, and then move on to attack everything.
But yet there's a list in your introduction of things that are not in the book.
Well, that was because we felt those had been covered elsewhere in humor that was meant for men.
What do you laugh at? I mean, do you laugh at the male comedians, the male stand-up comics on television who tell mother-in-law jokes and, you know, take my wife, that kind of thing?
They can be very funny.
Johnny Carson is my favorite comedian. Also Rodney Dangerfield I like. What I personally find offensive, and one thing we try to stay away from in Titters, is the self-deprecatory school of humor as put forth by Joan Rivers, for example. She's quite funny, but I don't think that it's necessary for her to appear repeatedly on TV and tell jokes like, the last time I took off my makeup, my dog threw up. It's very funny, but I think women are beyond that and don't have to do that anymore. And I personally don't care how small her tits are. Even if they do look like mosquito bites, I don't think she has to trumpet it continually on TV. Inflicting her neuroses on everybody. And also, it's Phyllis Diller does it to an extent, though not as much.
I was thinking that one of the things about women's humor is that most of the jokes about women have been made by men. And in order to do humor on a subject, you need to know the subject real well. And maybe men don't know women as well as women do. And so it'll be interesting if more women get into humor and start being funny. It'll be interesting to see the kind of jokes that women do about themselves and on other women, because they're working out of more knowledge, you know. They really are. They can, I mean,
they can talk about makeup and not just use the word mascara.
But
did you have an idea in your head when you first decided to do Titters that women laugh at different things than men do? Or does anyone know?
Well, if something is funny, everybody should laugh at it, but women might appreciate it with a certain special enthusiasm if it's close to them. We have a thing in the book on a parody of the Tampax instructions, and many men may not have seen that, although some of them I'm sure looked, you know, in their sister's box of Tampax and read it, you know, and they wanted to find out more about what went on. But so women seeing that will go, oh, you know, and they'll scream with delight because it's something that is a part of their life. And men, it's a little more foreign to them, but they'll still think it's funny. And
everything in the book, anything that's a good parody stands up on its own, and everything in Titters does. Some of the pieces happen to be based on experiences which are common to women and not men.
And we wanted to do that particularly with Titters. I mean, if there's a sequel to Titters, and we've been contemplating several, like Daughter of Titters, Titters Returns, and Titters Student Nurse. But if we do any of those, we might not stick to just such feminine subjects and go in for political humor or anything like that. But in the first, we wanted to create an environment. We wanted to create an atmosphere that would be part of that, like women's culture that we were talking about.
Probably the politics of cuticles would be an article that would appear in a more political version of Titters.
Well, what about feminist humor? Is that feminist humor that you're talking about?
What is feminist humor?
What
do you mean by feminist humor?
Feminist humor is humor that isn't funny.
New school of humor. Humorless humorists.
The word feminist has become, I mean, it's almost like the word revolutionary. And what does it mean, you know? But, I mean, it's a Virginia Slims ad now. I don't know what it is.
Do you see Titters as an alternative?
To feminism, in a sense, yeah.
or to what's available, or to, say, the Ms. Magazine version of what's funny?
Well, they don't really have a version of what's funny.
They'd like to, because they think that they should have a sense of humor. I mean, they think that it's one of the things the modern woman should have, a sense of humor, you know. You should know how to hang a picture, fix a tire, and have a sense of humor.
Right, and know where your clitoris is.
Right.
In case you haven't figured it out yet.
But
apparently a lot of them haven't.
But when they try to provide one, they don't. But that's partly because what they want to do is they're concerned feminists, and mostly people in any movement seem to want to have their literature and their humor and whatever revolve around how the world should be. And humor has to operate out of how the world is. You can't be funny about an idealized future state. So, I mean, there were examples. They tried to do a humor section at Ms., and there was one piece written by somebody, some quite well-known woman. It wasn't Jean Kerr, but it was somebody like that, and she had used the word fishwife, and they said, no, can't use the word fishwife. This is, you know, it's discrimination. This is not on our approved list. I mean, so in a climate like that, how can you be funny? It's too restrictive.
She could have if she said fish husband,
Fish
maybe.
husband.
Fish spouse.
You're both going to go on the road and hold humor workshops, right? Gag workshops.
Gag workshops,
Yes,
right.
sure. If anybody'd like to buy them, we will. We're going to try and teach people how to be funny, or else. We said.
Or else a pie, right?
Yeah.
Or else we'll pie them, right?
Our poster, we have our poster for our lectures says, attend our lecture or we'll kill you. A threat which we wish we could make good, which we know it's an idle threat.
Katie, do you really think you can teach people to be funny?
Sure, yeah.
Funnier, anyway. You can teach people to the mechanics of
teach them
writing.
how to throw pies.
You can teach them. I mean, you can teach them if they're writing a joke to put the funny word at the end. You know, you can teach them joke words. We've discovered some feminine joke words, which are, what are they? Dress shields.
Tupperware, dress shields.
Dessert cart.
Spoolies. Remember those?
You just slot those in somewhere, you know, and it works like Johnny
Automatic
Carson's
laugh.
jockey shorts.
Cuticle works.
Right. Cuticle is
Proctologist,
a good
yeah.
one.
Tupperware works like proctologist.
what was the other one? Waffle iron.
Right.
How do you deal with someone's fear to be funny? Because there are people who are just plain afraid
Fear
to
of
be funny.
funny?
Fear of funny. You heard of that book?
Like fear of fucking,
Well,
yes.
I don't know. We could give them candy.
They won't take it.
Deanne, I think it's time to take off our shirt.
Yes, could be.
We just wanted to show you that if people ask if the name Titters is a locker room double entendre, it is.
What were you
And
doing?
The pun is intended.
You were on a beach one day and you decided we have to write this book. Is that how it happened?
Yeah, we met at a video humor service.
Is that anything like Dial a Prayer?
Oh, have you seen
Well,
the
you can't
video
really call
dating
up.
service?
It's
It's
a
wonderful.
select group of people who sign up. You view
Well, we met
cassettes
at
of
a
each other,
steam
people
bath,
telling
actually.
jokes.
No, we in fact, we met at a ladies' luncheon. And we hated each other instantly. So we knew we were destined to work together. Deanne had the idea to do a book of humor, and I had the idea of the title. And we managed
about 2 years
to
ago.
convince people that we could do it and to give us a lot of money. And then we managed not to take all the money and go to Rio, which is one of the other things we thought about. And like Robin Hoods of the humor world, we went around doling out vast amounts of this money to people who did stuff for us, which was
So
a
you
lot
assigned,
of
you
fun.
treated it like a magazine,
Right.
you assigned.
Yeah.
We assigned various
Exactly.
pieces and worked with the writers over the past 2 years and avoided phone calls from neurotic people in the middle of the night asking if they could see revisions on their pieces. We said no.
We ran it very fascistically, and because we knew that was the only way of doing it. We didn't have any pretense of, equal representation or anything. We just said, okay, we're going to do this the way we want to. It's our project, and that's.
And we had
did it
total
like
control of the project. Macmillan, the publisher,
They never knew what hit.
never really stepped in. We hired our own art director, and she designed the book, Judy Jacqueline.
Mm-hmm.
We turned in camera-ready copy, which means
So that was an incredible amount of work
dummy
over
copy
2
of the
years,
book.
wasn't it?
Oh, yes. If we'd known how much work it was, we would never have done it. It was more work than you could believe. It was,
Well, did you know? I mean, did you know how to do it before you started?
no. We thought we did. We thought we knew how to do it, but we didn't really know how to do it.
Oh.
Because how could you know? How could you know the difference between a stat and a direct positive?
And
I
who wants
still
to
don't
know? Who cares?
But we found out all sorts of things that we needed to know. That we would have to, and I have to say that a lot of times when we didn't know, we did resort to the stratagem of calling the nearest man and saying, "Hey, remember me? We used to work, and I don't understand how to do this. And could you just give me a few tips on what?" And they would, and they were quite helpful to us, men that we had worked with before.
fact,
they never did anything, but they would always give advice and instructions, and it was good to have that resource to call on.
A number of them tried to ball their way into the book, but just didn't make it. Guess they weren't good enough.
Is it true, really, that men wanted to be in the book?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They asked us constantly. We were
Strange
badgered
men.
repeatedly. People
Men
were
we
calling me
didn't
up in the
know.
middle of the night, coming over, banging on the door.
We'd say,
Begging
go
to
to
be in
Denmark
Titters.
and get a sex change. Then you can be in the book. But I think it was just symptomatic, really, of the desperate urge of the freelance writer to get published anywhere, that strange men would phone up and offer to change their names to Thomasina if we allowed them. They'd always say, "What about George Eliot?" That was their big comeback.
Who are some of the women who are in the book, who've written for you?
Candace Bergen.
Believe it or not. Yes, she once cracked a joke, and it's now enshrined in Titters.
Because I met her through the Saturday night show and did a piece with her about Catherine Deneuve, and with the Chanel bottle stuck to her head, and so we used that as an ad. And
Phyllis
Irma
Diller's in the
Bombeck,
book.
Phyllis Diller, Florence King,
And Mira.
who are some of the other, Lois
Helen Lawrence.
Gould, who are some of the famous people. Well, then there were a few famous people that weren't in the book, and we did parodies of them instead, like Erica Jong and Nora Ephron, Lillian Hellman, and some of the people from the Saturday Night Show, Gilda Radner and Lorraine Newman, are in it. And we have a special section on comedians.
Is it tough? I mean, you're working now on NBC Saturday Night. Is it tough for a woman to be a comedy writer? I remember Selma Diamond. There aren't that many names that that I think I could come up with.
It is it's a man's business. It seems to be, but it's not. I mean, there's been a big change. And I mean, I understand that in Hollywood now, if you're a woman, they're dragging people out of beauty salons saying, "Here, you're a woman, take this money and write a movie treatment," because there's been a swing in the other direction, which has benefited. It's benefited us. But at the Lampoon, I mean, I think when Deanne and I first met, she asked me about the Lampoon, and I said, "Forget it," and not really knowing if she thought I was trying to keep it for myself or what, because it was just very, very hard. No one wanted you.
You were the first woman editor there. How did that happen?
Well, I was going out with one of the male editors, and he kept bringing me to dinner. And I'd just keep coming, and there I'd be, and what could they do, And after a while they said, "Hey, not bad for a girl." But there was always that for a girl, and that's the prevailing attitude. And they've had to change somewhat too, but not so much so that they don't still feel that. Like, you feel if you're funny, then you must be some sort of a freak, if you're a girl and funny.
Do you get paid equally with the male writers on Saturday Night?
Yeah, I don't think that there's wage discrimination there. There's not. There's not much of a problem for the women there. Some, but not much less. It's changed.
Is it true that we don't laugh at what is beautiful? And that's why.
Depends who you're talking about. I think
Well,
Elizabeth Taylor is hilarious.
I think that's the thing that Aristotle said.
I
Well,
don't
he had
think
no
anybody.
sense of humor.
Nobody is that beautiful. But, well, I mean, of course, beauty is just a fad. I mean, you know, my mother laughed at Tiffany lamps and thought they were horrible and ugly, and then people, you know, ended up paying thousands of dollars for them. So what's beautiful? It's just this subjective thing. But I don't think, I mean, even Candice Bergen isn't so beautiful that you couldn't laugh at her.
I find that, you know, interesting that there's a piece by Candice Bergen in your book. What is
So
it
do
on?
we.
So does she, probably.
What is her piece on?
Oh, it's
The same thing she did.
the
on
same thing she
Saturday
did on
Night
the show,
with
which
Ann.
was Catherine Deneuve for Chanel. You know, when she's lifting her head up and the bottle is stuck on the side of her head, so it's just a shot of that. But which was her idea.
Give me about 30 seconds about Cabbage Patch and tell the audience what it's about.
Well, it's My Secret Cabbage Patch is a parody of My Secret Garden by Nancy Friday, and the piece in the book is written by Susan Tupfer, alias Maundy Thursday. And what she does is take various sections in the original and satirize them mercilessly. For example, Nancy Friday has a section in her book called Big Black Men, and it's all these fantasies that she's obviously made up, and just going crazy over endless fantasies, and they're all pretty ludicrous. So what Susan did in her piece.
Deanne, I have to cut you off. We're out of time.
Okay.
Thank you both for being here. Thank you for watching.
I don't think
and
one
good
of
night.
us ever said the word Macmillan.
Woman was produced by WNED-TV, which is solely responsible for its content, and was funded by public television stations, the Ford Foundation, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.